Hello and welcome to Minnesota Comics Authority. I'm here today. I just got in the mail on Halloween here the Ballad of No, or Do As You're Told, the Ballad of No. I think you'll forgive me for not remembering the name of the comic since only one word of the title is on the cover, which I love. I should start off. I love this color. The art inside is by Kelsey Shannon, and it's written by, what's his face? Richard C. Meyer. With this comes two pinups. One, which is the normal cover itself. If I unfold this, you're not going to be able to see it. And then the other one is this poster made by Harold's Baumanis? I don't know. Never heard of the guy. But anyway, so the premise of this is it's sort of similar to Pandemic, where it's existing in the same world, the world of the pandemic comic, but also in our real world of a pandemic and riots after police violence. This is all the art is by Kelsey Shannon. I've read through the comic once, and I flipped through it again right before I hit record on this. And I just have kind of a couple thoughts. The first thing is I like the choice of the black and white art. It's a great feel. The lettering, especially the stuff that like this, that's sort of like built into the art, sound effects and stuff are fantastic. And this sort of brushy style really works well for the story. One thing that I wish though, and I think it could make this like just visually better, would be like little pops of color. I think about like this scene right here having the fire, having like that colored red and orange and yellow to make it just pop out a little bit more, distinguish it, add a little bit more contrast between what the firemen are and what the flames are. I think that that would be like visually helpful, but it would also serve as a way to emphasize some of the chaotic things. Like on the, you can see here that, Kelsey did some really cool stuff with like negative space as a way of showing the fire. So like on these, the parts of the palm trees that are on fire is contrasted in the smoke with just white. And that's cool. And it's like, I think that leaving that as white is appropriate. I think that that just looks really cool just on its own. But I think little things, little pops of color here and there could serve the story really, really well. Um, One thing, there are a lot of recurring characters in this book that are not always immediately apparent. Um, I think for one of the characters, it's easy to point out, and that is the skateboarder. That skateboarder shows up again later on, um, and I don't know. For me, it was easy to figure out like, oh, that was the skateboarder that spoke earlier. This guy who's talking to the crowd, that's like riling them up, uh, he appears later, I believe, but it's not the most clear thing. Um, but anyway, the other thing that I kind of had a problem with storytelling wise was it. I'm going to give a compliment first. I like that it seemed like a just sort of a dispassionate explanation of some of the things that are happening. And I'll point out a few things. Like one is the fact that like here is like this black guy that gets attacked, he's getting choked out, very visually very similar to what happened to George Floyd. And it's not he didn't do anything, right? It's like it's not that he was deserving of it. The cops are shown sometimes as the menacing figures, other times shown as just sort of doing what they're supposed to do. We have this sort of like the inept newsman, which I think almost everybody hates the media at this point, right? So I don't think anybody will consider them, want to come to their defense. But so we had those like very like visually intimidating police officers, and then later on we have some that are like interacting with a woman, and they're just like, you got it, like right here, where it's like you have your friendly neighborhood cop who's just hanging out and talking and being really reasonable, giving directions and stuff. So I feel like this was showing a lot of aspects of what's been happening. Statues getting yanked down, sort of like, I guess this would be the avatar for like the conservative who sort of like inserts themselves um, into problems or inserts themselves into conflict, uh, feeling somewhat virtuous, right? Um, like this, like, what the fuck are you smiling about? You think I'm a joke? You think this country is a joke? And so I think like in that way the storytelling's really balanced, right? It's almost like it's a nice documentation of the chaos. Like this woman getting trampled, right? That's one of the main characters. And it's like, I like that about the story. But it's also one of the things that kind of gets in the way of the story is that it is just so much visual things from what's been happening that it doesn't feel like a story. Um, we were following No through all of this chaos, but it just there's just not enough with this character to follow. There's not reason enough to keep following him, I guess. And I think that I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't read this, but I think that if this is continued, this character, he's now tethered with somebody that I think will provide what he was missing before, right? He was just this chaotic force going through the story, but now he's tied with somebody very not chaotic. And so hopefully those Richard can like use those two characters to balance each other out and to, I don't know, provide more of a, I guess I keep saying the word story, but create more of reason for No to be navigating throughout the world. Um, I I enjoyed it, not as much as Pandemic. I thought Pandemic was a lot better. It was as far as like story goes, it was definitely just better because it felt like there was more of a story being told. And you know, yeah, I guess that's really all I have to say. I know there is you're supposed to have like weapons. So I don't know. Here's like my World War II knife. Here's a round, a dummy round from Sea Whiz, and I don't know. Here's a grenade. That's all I had laying around. But anyway, hey, thanks for watching. This has been Minnesota Comics Authority, and I'll see you later.